Guys, welcome to the next episode of the Investor Army podcast. I have a great guest on here from Jackson, Mississippi. He's a young 20-year-old real estate entrepreneur. He's made hundreds of thousands of dollars, done over 40 deals. He's wholesaled houses. He's now doing owner financing. We're going to talk a little bit about his story and how he got from where he was to where he is now. Hopefully, he can inspire you. Let me introduce you to my guest, Trey Brooks.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Let me just start by saying, Connor, it's a huge honor to be on your podcast. You're someone I look up to, and hopefully I can be in your position one day.
Well, I can pretty much guarantee you will, and I know you will now, and I'm pretty sure you're going to inspire a lot of young entrepreneurs on our show today. Now, introduce yourself and let them know. So you started out in Dallas, and how'd you end up in Jackson, right?
Right. So I started off in Dallas. I was 18 years old, just getting out of high school. I started going to real estate seminars, and I noticed that they were just all get-rich-quick schemes, just pitch you the dream or whatever. And so I started doing my own research online and just figuring out that this is something that's possible, that's something that can be done. And so I just started doing a lot of research and studying online. I spent about 9 months learning before I got over analysis paralysis. And so let's backtrack a little bit and just say, like, when I was in Texas, I was just a party kid. Like I said, I was getting out of high school, going into college, and all I did was party. And so I was still learning about real estate. And then I was like, something's got to give. I need to stop partying. I need to start doing something constructive and productive. And so I just moved to Jackson, Mississippi during my summer break. And like I said, I was still starting out as being an investor. And I had made these business cards, like kind of like a fake it till you make it kind of thing, that said I was an investor, a cash buyer, and I bought houses in these situations. And I never passed out any of those business cards. And then as soon as I went to Mississippi, I was on my way somewhere. I stopped at a gas station, and someone gave me a Jehovah's Witness flyer, and it's like, trying to convert you or whatever. And I just I was like, okay, if you're brave enough to give me your Jehovah's Witness flyer, I'm going to be brave enough to give you my business card. And so I gave him my business card, and it ended up turning into my first deal.
Well, I don't know if you're a party kid. I think you're just a kid, right? I mean, guys, he's only 20 years of age, right? And he's already in real estate. So I think you kind of transitioned out of that phase in your life that takes most people until they're 30 to do. So you're ahead of the curve. So I wouldn't say that. Now, you have to get out of your fear barrier, right? So many people just don't do it. They know what it takes to be successful. They just don't do it because something in their thought process says, what if I fail? Or it's just a limiting belief. But he gave his card out, and you found a lady that had a house to sell. So how did that deal go down?
Right. So, okay, I gave her my business card, and she goes, "Oh, you buy houses?" I go, "Yes, ma'am, I do buy houses." Mind you, I've never done a deal before in my life. And so she's like, "Okay, I got a house for sale." And so I was like, "All right, do you mind if I link up with you later in the afternoon?" And she's like, "Yeah, just give me a call." And so she gave me her cell phone number, and I was too scared to call her. So she ended up calling me and was like, "Hey, are you interested in coming and take a look at my house?" I was like, "Yes, ma'am. When would be a good time?" We set up an appointment. Went on the appointment, and I offered her $12,000 for her 2-bedroom, 1-bath house that was in kind of like a high crime area. And so she took it like without hesitation. She's like, "Yes, I'll take that." So I had no idea what I was doing. So I would just go to Bigger Pockets and just type on the forums like, "Hey, what do I do? Like, I just got a lady that's interested in selling. I need to get under contract. Does anyone have any contracts that they can share with me?" And so forth and so on. And so I actually got my first contract off of Bigger Pockets, printed it off, took it to the lady, and the next meeting, I was like, let me just see how low she would go and see how motivated she was. So I went back and I offered $2,000 for a rent-ready 2-bedroom, 1-bath house that she wanted to just get rid of. And so when I offered it at $2,000, she was like, "I'll take it." So I was like, "What, dude? If you're gonna take $2,000 for a house, that's less than a used car." So I inked it up and I put it on Craig. Like, I inked it up, went back to Bigger Pockets. Like, okay, what's the next step? I got under contract. Now what do? They're like, just go market it on Bigger Pockets, Zillow, and so forth and so on. So I marketed it across every platform, and the first guy I showed it to ended up buying it. So it was like a smooth deal, and I've never had a deal that smooth ever since. But
Well, how much did you sell it for?
I sold it for $5,000. So
$5,000.
$5,000. I made $3,000, and I basically used that money to strengthen my foundation. So I spent a lot of it on education, getting my real estate license. That way people took me more seriously and whatnot. And yeah.
Well, I think a lot of people in California right now are getting pretty frustrated, right? Because he's in Jackson, Mississippi, guys, one of the cash flow markets of the country. It's pretty typical to buy houses under 10 grand there. And there's a number of places around the country, Detroit, Birmingham. So if you're around the country, you may want to look into investing in some of these areas. I'm pretty sure you can partner with Trey here, and we'll talk about that towards the end of the video, or towards the end of the podcast, because he's got a lot of deal flow A lot of y'all have a lot of money. That's a good partnership, right? So he used Bigger Pockets. Guys, if you're listening to this right now and you've never been on there, it's a great forum. New investors and experienced investors get on there and talk strategy. There's a lot of good resources on there. So you started wholesaling houses. What were some of the ways that you were finding deals when you were starting out your business? Were you doing direct mail, print ads, bandit signs?
Yeah, so when I first started, as a common theme against a lot of new wholesalers is that we don't really have that much money. So, like I said, I used a lot of my first deal to get to do some marketing. So I ordered a bunch of bandit signs, but a lot of it was done by prospecting, just meeting people, telling people what you do, and like you got to tell people that are out in the neighborhoods, that meet people, that know people. So I was networking with a lot of postmen. I was networking with county clerks. I was networking with the door-to-door cable salesman, just anyone that went door-to-door that dealt with like houses or anything like that. I was talking to them, just saying, hey, this is what I do. I'll pay your referral and so forth and so on. So, but since then, I've kind of transitioned more into like skip tracing people. So rather than just sending them a piece of mail, just putting them in the TLO system and skip tracing them, getting their number, giving them a call, saying, hey, do you want to sell your house?
Yep.
And that's been pretty profitable so far.
So referral marketing, guys, is always going to be one of your best lead sources. It's going to be where you're going to get most of your biggest deals because a lot of y'all are marketing towards public lists or you're going out on online resources. If everybody knows where the deal is, you're going to have multiple hands in that cookie jar and it's going to get pushed up, right? So let's talk about TLO real quick. So you're using TLO, which is a skip tracing service that allows you to look up information on potential addresses. You're targeting a certain list, like which list are you looking at? Tax delinquent, code enforcement, or
100% right. Yes. So tax delinquent, code enforcement, my own driving for dollars list. I have a virtual assistant that's able to scrub lists. I don't know how he does it, but he does it. And so he gives me some lists, and I'll just creative things like, let's say your city might mow the lawn for some people. So they have a list of all the lawns that they mowed, and they build the owners, ask them for that list, or ask them for the list of fire damage properties, or a list of people who just went to jail for felonies, and so forth and so on. So you just got to get creative. Like think about people that go to jail, like they have houses. What happens to those houses? Just be creative and think outside the box, and you're gonna find your pot of gold.
So that's pretty common. I'm seeing this a lot lately. People are moving and transitioning from direct mail into more, they call it, instead of the old saying driving for dollars, right now it's dialing for dollars. So a lot of people are skip tracing leads, cold calling them, or they're using what's called like a mojo dialer or something that's going to automatically call them. So you have your virtual assistant get these addresses and then call them for you, or are you contacting them on your own, or how are you kind of doing that?
Right. So what I'll do is get the list. I'll have my virtual assistant scrub it. And then what they'll do is they'll make the initial call and see if they're just gauge their motivation. So if they're motivating and selling, then that's when I'll get the call and find out the details and see how much they start negotiating with them and so forth and so on. But if they're not motivated, then what we'll do is put them in our system and put them on an automatic follow-up campaign, because not a lot of people spend time on the follow-up, and that's where a lot of the money lies in. So we have an automated follow-up sequence that we put them in, and the virtual assistants manage most of the back-end stuff.
Yeah, so there's big money in the follow-up. Now, you started wholesaling, and then you transition into taking title. So how do these deals that you're funding them, are you using private money, hard money, joint venture partners, or how are you kind of doing your first deals that you're getting into?
Right. So when I first started acquiring, I would use some of the money that I saved up for my wholesale deals. And so, a lot of people, like, they'll make some money, but then they'll go screw it off. And, you got to kind of save up a little bit to get to where you're going. And so I was doing that. And then I was like, okay, if I use up all my money, then I'm not going to have any more money to invest. So that's when I started looking more towards joint venturing. And it's kind of hard to whenever you're 20 years old and you're doing what you're doing, it's kind of hard for you to kind of seek people that trust you and so forth and so on. So I kind of bridged that gap just by being competent and knowing what I'm doing. So I spend a lot of time and effort and resources on my education and making sure that I am able to follow through and do what I say I'm going to do and so forth and so on. So that's why I see you, Connor, all the time at events. Like, I spend so much money on just going on events, education events. And that's how we met and became good friends, because I see you at so many of those. And now transitioning more into joint venturing with people, offering them, split of some of the profits that we're making.
Yeah, that's how most people are going to have to start out in the business. A lot of y'all are not financeable. Y'all can't get credit lines. The banks won't work with you. And most people that are going to lend to you aren't going to lend to you as compared to someone else who's kind of built up credibility in the marketplace. So they want a bigger part of the deal. So 50% of the deal can be a lot more than just loaning money at 8 to 12%, right? So they may give you that first shot to work with them. And that's a good way to start doing some deals, creating some HUDs, showing pictures of properties you've done, to go out there and build a credibility kit to go get new deals or to go get new lenders going forward. So the other thing you pointed out is very important. So guys, let's remember he's 20 years old here, and he's already taken initiative on his own to travel around the country, right? He was in Alaska. We just got back from Arizona. He's going to note camps. He's going to the Financial Friends Network events. He's traveling the country investing in himself. So even though on the front end it's a lot of money out of pocket, it's going to pay for itself many, many times over. By the time he's my age, he's going to be well retired and doing whatever he wants with his life. But we won't talk about how old I am. But so it's important to put money into your education, right? I put a ton of money in my education. I'm well vocal about this and open about it. I spent over $100,000 to get to where I'm at. And a lot of y'all don't want to go buy a $300 home study course. Right. And it's just, you're going to make the mistake in the field one way or the other. So you started partnering with these people. And then you started transitioning your strategy, right? So most people go from wholesaling to flipping, but you went from wholesaling to owner financing pretty quickly, right? Talk about what you're doing with your owner finance deals.
Right. So you got to think like, okay, what's the goal? Everyone's objective is going to be different. And my objective is to build like long-term wealth. And so really what I want to do is like, okay, if you're flipping houses, you're wholesaling, you have a job. And it's like, I don't want to have a job. I don't want to have to work my butt off and to continue to finance the way that I live, right? So what I'm doing is creating different streams of income by financing houses. So I started going to the Secretary of State sale, buying houses really cheap down here in Jackson. You can pick up houses for $1,200, $1,500, $2,000. Like, it's so cheap to pick up houses down here. And so what I would do is I pick up these houses and then I would finance them for way more to investors who maybe wanted to fix them up and rent them out or so forth and so on. And so that kind of helped me get to a position where I was creating passive income streams that were helping me to finance the life that I wanted to live and for me to focus on different, bigger and better money making activities. And
yep.
So, okay.
No, I'm just and Jackson, guys, this is a great opportunity. If you're around the country and you know people on these low and price point markets and you're trying to build up your IRA account, which a lot of y'all are investing out of your self-directed IRA, you have a small balance. Well, what about a $5,000 or $10,000 property, right? So look at the contribution limits, depending on which age bracket you're in. So if you can partner with someone like Trey, if you understand how an IRA works, he may be able to get you a cheap property. Y'all may be able to create a note together. And there's a lot of opportunity. So he's a deal finder, and a lot of y'all have money. So you look at this spectrum. Either you have a lot of money, but you don't have time to find deals because you have a busy lifestyle, or you have a lot of time to find deals, and you're looking for deals because you don't have any money, right? So that's a good way to partner. So I'm sure a lot of y'all have an opportunity to work with Trey. We'll give his contact information out here in a second. So you started creating passive income. We talked about this. You read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You have to be reading, guys, and that's a book, even though we like to talk about that's cliche, right? Everybody reads Think and Grow Rich, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. But these books are what help trigger that thought process for a lot of young entrepreneurs. I mean, he's only 20, guys. Most people are in college, and he's already well on his way to becoming financially free. So what was after that? You went into wholesaling, and now you're working on virtual wholesaling in different markets?
Right. So, yeah. So like I was saying, when things get a little bit more passive, it's been opening up my time so I can indulge in bigger and better things. And so what I've done is I partnered with some boots on the ground people in different markets like Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, and California, just to start out with. And we're actually being able to find some leads and start digging up some deals there. And like I said, too, like with virtual assistants and systemizing yourself and so forth and so on, you're able to take yourself out of the equation. That way you can start building up other systems and processes that will generate you more money.
Yep. So it's good that you're already thinking about automation and systems. So you're using a virtual assistant, probably out of the Philippines, or where are they from? Okay. So how are you working with them, right? So you have to have some type of management system. Are you using RealFlow? Are you using Podio? Or how are you working with them on the day-to-day kind of interaction? Are you using Skype? What does that kind of look like for some of these new investors? They're trying to kind of reverse engineer what you're doing.
Right, for sure. Yeah, so we're using Podio just to keep track of everything, to communicate with them. Everything is done through Podio. I would not be half the person I am today without the help of Podio, to be honest with you guys. And that's helped a lot with automation and just being able to keep track of your business, So it's when you're wholesaling and it's just starting off, you're doing a lot of bootstrapping. Like you might be using pieces of paper to keep track of everything. But like if you have one system that has track of everything from A to Z in your business, then you're going to run so much more efficiently. And
Yep.
yeah, and that's where the start is.
So kind of break a little bit down for people. We talk about Podio on here quite a bit, but you never know who's going to listen to which episodes we put out. Let's kind of look at Podio a little bit closer, right? So it's an automation system. Kind of give them kind of a system or example of how you would work with your virtual assistant. So you get these leads, you're skip tracing them, they're doing that for you. How does it kind of play out when you're doing this type of transaction?
Well, which kind of transaction?
So like when you're skip tracing these leads, right? You have your virtual assistant skip tracing them, and then they're putting them into a spreadsheet or they're putting them into Podio.
Right.
But inside of Podio, you have tasks, right? And so you can see live time what your virtual assistants are doing halfway around the world, and they're managing all the data because you're trying to do what with your business as an entrepreneur? You're trying to find leads, finding sellers, finding buyers, finding money. But it takes too much time and too much money to do that on your own as your income increases. So you're outsourcing this to a virtual assistant. You're paying them, I don't know what, $3 or $4 or $5 an hour, and they're uploading everything into Podio, which is basically an online data management system that keeps track of all this, right?
Right. And so, like, as an investor, my goal is to always have deal flow in it, to always be having a good number of prospects in my pipeline, right? So lead generation was a thing in my business that was taking the most amount of time because you know how many stones you have to turn over just to find one good lead, And so by automating that process, it's been able to free up all the time in the world. So that's the process that I've focused the most on automating. So I have the whole process automated, but that's where I spent the most time doing it. So basically, like I said, what they'll do is they'll skip trace them. They'll put the information in the Podio so it's all tracked. I know where the money went and know that these people got tracked. And then what they'll do is they'll go in there and they'll just spend like a day or two just calling everyone on that list. So they'll call them, gauge their motivation, and then if they're motivated in selling, then they'll forward the information to me. Or if they're not motivated in selling, then they'll automatically put them on a follow-up campaign. And let's say we can't get a contact with them on the phone, then we have a button on Podio that we press, and it automatically sends them a letter and it maybe a contract offer too. And Podio is just limitless in the things that you can do with it. It can really do any aspect of your business that you think it can do.
Yeah, it's a game changer for a lot of individuals. So when you're working with your virtual assistants, what is it? A lot of people come to me and they're, I guess, a little tentative. They're a little scared to work with a virtual assistant. They don't know what type of information to give them. Should I give them my email accounts? Should I give them credit card access? But, they have to be able to send postcards out if you're going to automate fully. So are you okay with giving them your information? How many virtual assistants are you using? How much are you spending, I guess, a month? Like how many hours do they work for you? Kind of break it down so some of these young entrepreneurs can kind of get a better idea, a whole kind of 360 view of what you're doing.
Right. Okay. So I want to say that if you're going to start with going the virtual assistant route, then I would start by taking Connor's virtual assistant course. That was how I got my start on it.
Okay, guys, we lost Trey there for a second. We got cut out, but we're back here. So go ahead and continue on, Trey. We're talking about working with virtual assistants. How much do you pay them? How many hours a week do they work for you? Where can you find them?
Right. Okay. So yeah. So if you really want to start learning more about virtual assistants, what I would do first is take Connor's course, because that's kind of how I got started too. He has a virtual assistant joint venture course that's pretty great. And so I kind of got my virtual assistants referred to me. So I got lucky in that sense. I didn't have to sort them out. But I know a lot of people have to go through a lot of different virtual assistants just to find one good one, And so it's kind of just like any job. You got to have interviews. You got to vet the person, make sure they're able to perform. And sometimes they're not going to be the good fit for you. You got to fire them, but you got to just need to know to turn and burn quick, And so you can't get stuck with one bad virtual assistant, or otherwise you're going to be wasting money. And so the virtual assistants that we have, they get paid $3.50 an hour. And I know some of you guys might think that that's cheap, but like in countries like the Philippines, that's a lot of money to them. And, we pay them bonuses too for deals that we close, and they're able to live like rock stars in their city, And so they're actually really happy to be working, even though it seems like a low amount. They're pretty happy to be working. So our virtual assistants, they work pretty much about 10 hours a day, making calls, or until just they get all the tasks done. It just depends on whichever one comes first. And that way we're not overpaying or underpaying. And yeah, that's.
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of people, like what he brought up there, think that's not a lot to pay them. A lot of these individuals are college educated, they're bilingual, they're very skilled in certain areas of excuse me, of internet marketing, social media marketing. So anything that an assistant can do for you, pretty much, that's a physical assistant here at your own office, they can basically do for you over the internet. So how are you're using Podio, but are you using Skype or text messages? Because I get that question a lot. How do I communicate with them? And personally, in my business, we're on Skype right now. This is how I like to communicate with them, because it's literally like you can see it. You're sitting them across from you, right?
Right. So yeah, we use screencast. Like, let's say if I wanted to show them something on a Podio system, I'm training them a little bit, then I use this thing called screencast, and it's basically just records my screen, and they're able to see a live feed of what I'm doing on it. And then also what I'll do is Skype as well, and we use WhatsApp, or they'll use a call rail number. So whenever we get a new lead, they'll text me through a call rail number, which is a free app that you pay not free app, you pay $30 a month for it, but you get 10 different numbers. And I allocate one of those numbers to them. And they just text me, and that's what they use to make their calls. That way it's coming from a local number and not a number in the Philippines. And if we have a lead, then they just text me through that number and say, hey, check Podio. They send me a link through Podio, check this, and give them a call, negotiate, do what you can do. And and I know a lot of people are like, why would you outsource your calling? Like, isn't that like something that's crucial? And like, when they have like a thick accent, I mean, they do have an accent, but the Philippines has one of the less thick accents. So she actually sounds great on the phone. She's really smart. You wouldn't think that they would be inclined to handle like objections from sellers, but like they're really smart and they're quick on it too. So I use CallRail, and it automatically records each call, and I just go back and I listen through the calls, and I'm like, okay, wow, like she did a better job at that than I could have did, you know? Like, oh my golly. And so I've been really impressed, and it's been really beneficial. It's been a huge game changer. Like, even while I was at a three-day seminar with Connor, I was still getting leads, and I was still able to talk to some sellers and still get business, even though I was over 2,000 miles away. And so that's just, that just gives you an idea of like how much time it frees up for you, because lead generation is the oil of your business. Like, it's the engine of it. Keeps you running. And
that's what you need to be doing as an entrepreneur. What he said is build an automated system so that you can travel and do what you need to do, raise money, enhance your education. And it's important you brought that up, because that you said that she even does a better job than you. So this is what I deal with a lot of individuals. They're like, well, I don't know if they're going to do a good enough job for me or for my standards, right? So you got to look at it like this, guys. If you were to give yourself a grade, like a school grade, and you were to get, let's say, a B, and your virtual assistant was going to get a C on the same task, and you were to only do that task, one task per one task every minute, equal in exchange, right? You're better at doing that task than they are. But as an entrepreneur, we wear a lot of hats. So if you're doing all the different aspects of your business, you're doing the marketing, you're keeping track of records, dealing with contractors, your time's going to be broken up and diversified across all different areas of your business. If they're only doing that one thing and that one thing only, and they do it all the time, they're going to get better, and they're going to actually do better than you could at it. So really, they're going to be doing better at whatever they're doing than you could even be doing as a business owner. So really, you're costing yourself, who knows how much money by not just go ahead and outsourcing. So if you have a little bit extra money, it's just best to hire someone. Fire them quickly, but know how much time it takes to do each task, so that if they're not producing or performing at that rate or that level, you can be able to call them out on it. But the faster you hire someone like a virtual assistant, the sooner you're going to grow and scale your business.
For sure.
Yeah. So you're online, you're doing a lot of internet marketing and social media stuff now. You're wising up, right? Some of these young guys. So yeah, you're starting a YouTube channel, huh?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So guys, what's your YouTube channel coming in, and what are you going to do on that channel?
So yeah, I'm basically just going to teach younger investors, or just investors in general, like how I got started, some creative ways to do deals, mindset, motivation. Just really, I think it's going to be some great stuff, some great tutorials on how to get started, and no matter what age or walk of life you're in, no matter how much money you don't have. So yeah.
I think it's going to be good, because there's a lot of young guys out there, and everywhere I go, I'm always seeing this age is some type of limitation, right? Whether they're young, too young, or too old. And here's the thing I get from older people. They're like, well, I don't have enough time to learn social media or internet marketing because I'm too old. That's for my grandkids, right? Or I don't have enough time to become a landlord because, I'm 70 or I'm 65, and by the time my rental properties pay off, I'm going to be well gone and dead by then. And we don't know what type of, technology is going to come out, medicine is going to come out. People may be living to 125. You don't want to go ahead and make that assumption. And then on the other side, you have young people, right? And I know you may have dealt with this. I know you can tell everybody here in a second, but a lot of younger individuals, even myself who started my business in my late 20s, I always used to think, how are they going to take me serious? How do I go in and offer 250 grand for a house against 5 guys that are 50, 40 years of age that are clearly, obviously knowing more what they're doing? Is this going to hurt my chances? And I think it's just a lot of limiting beliefs. And clearly you see with Trey here, he's done over 40 deals, made hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it hasn't even affected him. So talk about that a little bit on the mindset of a young entrepreneur going into this business, because I think that a lot of young guys that could have made it don't start because of that fear.
Right. And so let me just start by saying that when I first started this journey to success, like the first thing I worked on was my mindset. So I read 2 books, 3 books, Think and Grow Rich, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, and Rich Dad Poor Dad. And so what those books did was just completely change just the way that you think about your life. And so once you change the way that you think on the inside, then your outside is going to change, right? And so basically how you get over objections from sellers is you just got to educate yourself, man. And I can't say anything else but to educate yourself. And so like if you're more competent as an investor or as a person, then the more confidence you're going to have, right? So I really took my education seriously. I made sure that, okay, if I'm going to go look at someone's house, then I need to know the right questions to ask them. I can't be stumbling on my words, and I can't make them think that I'm less competent than someone who is 50 or 40, So I need to let them think that we're on the same level because of the way that I present myself, the way I carry myself, the questions I ask, and our dialogue, and just like the energy they get from me. And so, like I said, you just got to educate yourself, and that'll bridge the gap from you being incompetent to you being competent, for you being unconfident to you being confident. And you got to see the value in yourself first, before you can portray it and think that you have value to offer to other people as well.
Yeah, and I see it all the time. I've met a lot of young entrepreneurs, and they have no problem getting deals, right? But you're going to go out there and fail. And you're going to have to go out and get embarrassed. You're going to get laughed out of some houses. That happens to everybody. I specifically, vividly remember cold calling people when I started my business and stumbling over my words and feeling like I was such an idiot. I'd be like, and I just hang up the phone and literally like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm such an idiot, right? But that happens to everybody. The winners, the champions, the people that make in this business just push forward. So it takes some sustained momentum, repetition of failure until you kind of learn what you're doing, until you can kind of get your swing in a groove, I guess you could say, and find your own swing. So guys, if you're young or you're old out there, don't let your age limit you in this business. Cindy Crane was on this podcast. She's in Trey's market. She bought 30 houses. I think she said she was 57 years old when she started the business, bought 30 houses in less than 2 years. I mean, it's age is not your limitation. Your limitation is your thought process.
Right.
So how can people reach you? Tell them your Instagram, your Snapchat, all your accounts. We'll put those below, guys, so you can reach out to Trey. If you're having trouble finding deals in your market, he's got huge deal flow. I'm sure he has a way for you to partner. If you have a small IRA, I'm sure Trey would be a good guy to reach out to help you grow that. I'm sure he'd like to partner with you. Go ahead and give me your contact information.
Yeah, so I like to be reached directly through my cell phone. It's the easiest way to reach me so my cell number is 817-205-2875. My email is treybuyshouses@gmail.com. I check that regularly because leads come in through there. My Facebook is Trey Brooks. I have 2 accounts, which is my old immature high school account.
Yeah, take that one down.
Say that again?
Yeah, take that one down.
I know. I'm going to take that one down now. So I have my more professional new one, which is Trey Brooks on Facebook. And my Snapchat is TreyB410. And my Instagram is _Trey_Brooks. And
yeah, guys. So Trey, I appreciate you coming on, guys. Check him out online. Be looking for him. I mean, over the next few years, I'm sure he's going to make a big name for himself here in this business. He's already doing the right necessary steps, taking the necessary steps, meeting the right people, associating himself with the right network. Go check him out if you want to meet him. He goes out on the Financial Friends Network events.
All right.
And Trey, I appreciate you coming on.
Dude, thanks for having me. It's been a blast.
Yeah, man. All right, guys, we'll see you on the next episode of the Investor Army Podcast.